Can someone online speak to make sure our system's still doing well?
Hola.
Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can hear you loud and clear.
Thank you.
Mark got lunch too. No,
Hi,
What's that?
Brown.
Mark got lunch
Is
too.
now joining.
Yeah. Piece of cheese and a cracker.
I
So-
eat my body weight in popcorn.
So can I give you guys a test, a history test? Belinda's not here, so I could fill in her void if you like.
Yes, please do.
So one question I was asked to do for the benefit of some council members was determine what the last plebiscite was and when it was. I know the answer. I'd like you to guess on what it would be.
It was an actual, was it fluoride?
Well, fluoride is a good guess because we've had a plebiscite on fluoride 5 times and it took the 5th time before it finally passed. But no.
Okay.
Give us a hint, David. What decade or year are we talking?
So we're talking 98.
I didn't care about politics in the 90s.
Was that? Did that have anything to do with the Yan Yi or?
No. So I would refer you to how much you like casinos.
Oh.
So the question on there, and a lot of municipalities did, was they...
Oh, VLTs and
VLTs, yes, exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
that was huge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, and we actually had a plebiscite.
Yeah, a lot of municipalities did that year, and then as it turned out, it didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It seems to, and they turned it down, right? Didn't we say no? We don't want VLTs in the bars. Is that right?
No, we said yes.
We did say it. I'm just thinking of what was the pub that was in Monarch? Remember?
Oh, the Monarch Bar. Yeah.
What's it? But they were that was one of their big revenues was the VLT out there, I think.
Yep.
That was one
Did you
of
say
the concerns they had, was rerouting of the highway.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Thanks for that.
Okay, I know I don't serve as well as Belinda, but there's my shot.
No, that was good. I've got a trivia night with a group of my friends tonight. I may be stealing that as a question.
So just so you know, the vote was 51 to 49.
Wow.
Ooh.
That was in 98.
98. Wow. I guess it is 1:31. I will call this meeting of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee meeting to order. And I'll start off with the acknowledgement statement. The City of Lethbridge acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The City of Lethbridge is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Mr. Sarsfield will do a roll call.
Thank you, Chair. So, Councillor Carlson?
Present.
Councillor Campbell?
Present.
Councillor Higgin?
Present.
Councillor Mayashiro? So 3 out of 4 are present. You have quorum.
Thank you. We'll continue on with the agenda. Number 2, consent agenda. Be it resolved that the minute, this is from, I will say for Mr. Carlson, be it resolved that the minutes of Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee held on Thursday, April the 1st, 2021 be approved and the chair and clerk designate be authorized to sign the same, and further be it resolved that the status of initiatives May 20th, 2021 be received as information. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the status of initiatives, one of the referrals, I guess, or I guess tasks, is to review our naming. I closed the sheet, so I don't have it. I think it was the naming policy.
Yes.
Do we have that on our radar for an upcoming agenda?
Who can answer that?
I don't know. Because the committee could just put it on the agenda. I'm not sure who would speak to it. Would it be Mr. Harper or Ms. Bracken? I'm not sure.
So chances are it would be me, because I look after the
Okay,
policies. So I do know
excellent.
we've tried looking at the naming policy in the past, and so what I could do is I could just do a summary of what it is and for a future agenda, just where we're at with that.
Excellent. That would be awesome. I saw it on there on our list and I didn't want us to keep forgetting about it. So thank you. If there's nothing further, I'll call for the vote. I did review the minutes as well. They looked fine to me.
Okay. Anyone opposed? That is carried. We'll move on to the adoption of the agenda from Councillor Higgin. Be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee on May 20th, 21st be adopted as presented. Councillor Higgin.
Question.
Anyone opposed? That is passed. Moving on to number 4, presentations. And I believe we do have Terry Plato from the library. Terry and Craig Brown, I believe. So Tara, did I say Terry? Tara. Tara, I'm changing your name. Tara, take it away.
Well, it's Craig Brown. I'll start off, and I just want
sure.
to say good afternoon to you all, and thank you for the opportunity to present the library's 2020 report to the community. 2020 was a year like no other for the library, as for most organizations and the community. And during the year, we closed our doors not once but twice. So geared open and closed. So it was a challenging year. The library had already established online platform and a presence in that zone. So we were able to, during the closure, to continue to serve the community in many ways. However, the closure of our physical spaces amplified that not all community needs can be served by online resources. There are 4 important things that we would like to highlight in 2020. They were, first of all, the library is more than just a place to get a book or a movie. Many people rely upon the library as a safe space to be and to connect with the community and with each other. The second important highlight is that online resources serve only a portion of the population and are not a replacement for physical materials. It excludes those without internet access, mobile devices, or the skills or willingness to access material online. Number 3, the library provides essential public computer access to find government, health, and community supports and to connect to families, friends, and opportunities. And 4th, we must continue to work towards removing barriers for our community and ensuring equitable access to the information and the ideas for all. The library board management staff worked diligently throughout 2020 to evolve library services to meet community needs in a safe and sustainable way while the library's doors remain closed. And I think many of you will have noted, certainly in the local paper, there's been articles weekly about the programming that was available at the library online and how the community could connect with the library. I will now turn it over to Tara Plato, who will give you more details about our accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Ali, if you could advance the slide. Perfect. So despite our closure and our limited ability to provide services, the library was actually really busy in 2020, and we had some significant accomplishments that I'm going to highlight for you here. The first was no fee memberships continued in 2020 and now into 2021, and that's to ensure that every member of our community, no matter their situation, has equitable access to the information and resources we provide. Second, the Crossings branch opened a toy library in early 2020 that provides toys made by environmentally conscious companies. The toy library provides access to physical learning and leisure opportunities for families in West Lethbridge. The board also approved an endorsement of the Canadian Urban Libraries Council statement on race and social equity that outlines the important role that public libraries have to play in advancing racial and social equity. The motion also required that the library incorporate the principles of that statement into our planning and approach to service development. The word on the street continued in 2020. It just went virtual. While it looked a lot different, it was robust and well received. The core of the festival was moved online and was extended actually to include a week of pre-event programming and a fall reading series that went from October through December. The library's response to the COVID-19 pandemic was really a commitment to ensuring a continuity of library services, keeping the health and safety of our staff, customers, and community a priority. A response to the pandemic included shifting programming to the library's online spaces, including our website, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and even onto Shaw TV. We started offering curbside pickup and grab and go services as public health restrictions would allow. We increased our investment in e-resources, and we hosted a number of events, both virtual and in person, throughout the year. The library also received 2 awards in 2020. We received the Minister's Award for Excellence in Library Service for the 2019 Big Truck Petting Zoo, and a Special Service Award from the Canadian Mental Health Association Alberta Division. If you could advance the slide, please, Ali. So even with full and partial closures for much of the year, we continued to see people visit the library and make use of the resources that were available. More than 22,000 people held a membership at the library in 2020. We had almost 12,000 curbside pickups, which filled more than 90,000 holds on materials, 244,000 physical visits to the library, and more than 500,000 visits to our website. Almost 700,000 library materials were borrowed in 2020, including more than 130,000 digital items. And we held 3,700 online and in-person events and activities that attracted more than 45,000 people. This included about 846 online programs with more than 8,000 live participants. Next slide, please. The report to the community document was appended to our submission, and it really highlights programs and services under our 4 strategic goals. It also highlights stories and quotes from staff and customers. So since that is available to you, I'm actually going to just skip to the last slide, if you don't mind, Ali. So just in summary, as Craig mentioned, 2020 taught us many things. It taught us that the connections we provide, whether they be to information and resources, learning or recreational opportunities, connections to community or to each other, are significant, and they contribute to community and individual resiliency. They contribute to understanding social equity and sustainability in our community. Library services such as Internet on the Go, moving to eliminate late fees, and our new Moving Forward program that focuses on skill building for displaced workers are just some of the ways in which the library continues to be committed to improving and evolving how we support the community as we continue to weather the impacts of the pandemic and in planning for post-pandemic recovery. So thank you very much. We're happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Ms. Plato. It is remarkable what the library has gone through, not only in COVID times, but even before that with the reconstruction and all sorts of challenges that you are faced with. So I applaud you and your staff for what you've been able to accomplish and what you've gone through. My one question is, how is your staff doing? You know, with all of this, how are they handling this in this time? And you know, I'm sure you're looking forward to when things get back to normal. But can you give me a sense of where you're at, like mentally?
Well, I'll try and answer that question. I would say that, you know, the library staff is like many other organizations. There was a report from sorry, I'm missing the name right now, but the Alberta Volunteer Organization that said that the #1 concern amongst not-for-profit organizations right now is mental health. And I would suggest that that's probably, you know, like any other organization, one of our major concerns right now is just ensuring, you know, with the pandemic puts tons of stress on everybody. And so, you know, we're ensuring that we're providing resources and doing things as safely as possible. That being said, we have a really passionate staff who really wants to serve the community, and that's evidenced obviously by the work that they did over the past year. You know, the first time our doors closed, within 2 days, we were doing online programming, and just really speaks to the dedication and passion of the staff at the library.
Great. Thank you for that. Councillor Higgin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much, Plato, for the presentation. That's amazing. I really like, if we can go back to the slide there, I think it's Ms. Moncrief that is right on the, where it has all the numbers for 2020. That one. Yep. There you go, right there. That's fantastic. This is something that is quite alarming to me, and in a positive way. I think this is fantastic. Now, is there a way that I'm looking, for example, 3,700 events and activities? Is that something that you have more of a breakdown? Obviously, I guess you would, to get these numbers. Is that something that some of these numbers could be forwarded to Standing Policy Committee if others are interested? I know that I am, as far as the breakdown of these different numbers. So if we had 3,700, kind of what those things were. Is that something that could be forwarded on to us?
Absolutely, I can get that for you. Obviously, the way we counted things in 2020 had to really change. So it's definitely not directly comparable to previous years. And so what this is we tried to provide activities and programs in a very different way. So we did things, for example, like asynchronous book clubs. So where you would normally have a group of people gather together to discuss a book, we did an online version where everybody could read the book at their own time, contribute to an online discussion, but it was not necessarily all at one time. So how things looked in 2020 were obviously very different. And so that all contributes to that 3,700. And I'm more than happy to get a breakdown for you.
Yeah. A breakdown of that one, and the other one I'd really like a breakdown too is the 846 online programs to you know, just see what some of those different online programs were. And I think you'd indicated that's a pretty straightforward one. I wouldn't need the 22,398 for those that held a card. But what I would like to know is, of those that held a card, how many of those 22,398 used the library? Is that something you can? I guess that's pretty straightforward to find out that information, right? How many of those 22,398 card holders frequented or used the services of the library, for example?
Yeah, we should be able to get that for you. Yeah, I'll look into our reporting software and see if we can pull that for you. One of the things to be aware of is that 22,398, as with any year, are the people who hold memberships. But what we know is that a lot more people actually come into the library than use memberships. Of course, that was limited in 2020 with our doors closed. But that 22,398 stayed fairly consistent even over the course of our closure. But I can definitely pull those for you too.
Yeah, I think the most important ones, like you say, are the 3,700, the 846, and then, like I'd indicated on the 22,398, how many of those actually used it. So thank you, appreciate it.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Brown, Ms. Plato. Appreciate always seeing the library's good work in our community. I was blown away at the 8,400 plus live streamed viewers. That's awesome, because it's a new way of doing business. How do you rate that? Was that as successful as you're hoping? Was it less successful as you were hoping? Or did you not even have a clue?
Well,
where it was going to go?
It's a hard question to answer because, of course, we weren't planning for it. It was very unexpected, and again, we basically turned our programming on a dime and started offering it in whichever way we could, and we didn't know how long that would be for, and ended up being much longer than we thought. So I don't know if there was a hoping. One of the things that I'll say right from the beginning, as did every, I'm sure, library and every other organization, kind of say, like, what should we be doing? Because one of my thoughts from the beginning was, why do we need to be providing online programming? There's probably lots of that out there, on the internet. It doesn't have to be your local library. But what we quickly learned is that there, in fact, is a real value to being your local library. One parent said to us, so they attend the live streams, and when you do that, there is some interaction with the chat, and so you can give your child's name, and the storyteller will say your child's name, welcome every child by name, just as they do if you're there in person. And one parent said to us that when her child's name was said, that he just lit up, and she realized at that moment how important it was to have other connections for her child other than herself and the child's father. They were quarantining in their house, isolating in their house, and that's the only interaction that the child had had with other people. And so hearing their name from another person's mouth just lit them up and just really highlighted how important it is that we continue to have those interactions, even if they're online. So stories like that really quickly helped me understand why it's important that there's a local connection, a connection to people that children and parents are familiar with at the library. Of course, we had lots of council come and do some story times for us. So continuing to make those community connections was really important. So we're really happy with the 8,400. Is it less than would attend our programs in person? Absolutely. We can't wait to get back to doing in person as well. But we will possibly do some sort of hybrid or continue with some online programming because there were definitely some advantages to that as well.
And thank you. Now, that was going to be my next question about, are there plans to continue? Because I'm not sure how many, or if you can track, how many of those folks that attended were new and unique users. I know that I sent out the link when I was telling stories and singing songs, and my, what would they be called? My niece's children, so my great nephews, I think. It was their first interaction with the library, and they loved it. When Dax or whoever would call out their names, you're right. It took me back to the romper room, the magic mirror. I see whoever sitting there. So that was awesome. Is there a thought? Did you capture how many people were new, had never attended a library event or been part of the library, who had shown up?
We don't have exact numbers, and the reason for that is because we don't track people who come into the library generally. So it would be very anecdotal. The programmers who do those story times would probably be able to say they saw some familiar faces and some newer faces, but we wouldn't have exact numbers. Definitely there were some new people, and again, one of the things we realized is doing the online is people who couldn't attend live or who couldn't come into the library at that time were able to attend online, where they might not have been able to attend if they had to come down to the library. So there was definitely some benefit to doing it that way. Again, there's we think benefit to doing it both ways, and we'll really have to determine how we're going to go forward, because of course it does take, we can't just double the workload necessarily, so we'll have to be strategic about how we go forward with that. But we definitely saw benefits to the online format as well.
And I appreciate that you're looking at it going forward, because there are folks in our community that truly value the library and the services, and they would access it more often, but things like transportation, child care, scheduling gets in the way. So I appreciate you're looking at it going forward, because opening up those services to all members of our community is vitally important. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I guess the important question, Ms. Plato, is, did I get more views than Jeff?
careful how you answer that, Terry.
Yeah, no, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I did it several times though, Mark. How many times did you do it?
Actually, I have to say that I really enjoyed doing that little children's library thing. That was a lot of fun, and fun to see the responses from a lot of kids. So I really appreciated the invitation to do that, as I'm sure my colleagues did.
I bet you got more views than me, Mark.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Plato or Mr. Brown? Seeing none, I thank you for that update. It's really, again, I have to congratulate the work that you do, the way you've pivoted, the way you maintain a positive attitude in times of, we're all going through it, but it seems the library just seems to have gotten the worst deal in the community. So thank you for the work you've done. I have a resolution here by Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee received the Lethbridge Public Library 2020 annual report and presentation as in attachments 1 and 2 for information. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if we can also further, I don't know if it needs to be included in the resolution, but ensure that the information is forwarded to our colleagues, just so that they have a moment to, if they have a moment, they can read through the information provided.
Mr. Sarsfield, does that happen automatically anyway?
So yes, it does. So anything which is considered at the standing policy committees is automatically forwarded to City Council, unless the standing policy committee has not finished with that particular report or item.
Okay.
Okay.
So that further be it resolved is not necessary.
It's already been typed in. All right. Unless there's anything further from my colleagues, I would also thank you, Ms. Plato, your staff, Mr. Brown, you and the whole board for the work you do. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Questions been called? Anyone opposed? I see none. That is carried. Thank you for your presentation. Moving on to 5.2. Robin Harper, sorry, pardon me, 5.1. It's Martin Thompson.
Brown.
I imagine you were here,
Is
Mr.
now
Thompson.
Exiting.
This is the permanent supportive housing funding. I guess we'll let you maybe just introduce this a little bit and explain what it is that what you're presenting to us. I know it's in the. I know it's been. We have it in our package, but I'd like to hear your take on it, if I could.
Okay, thank you, members of council. Marty Thompson here. The request is for a maximum of $447,748 to continue to deliver permanent supportive housing to the Family Ties Association in the facility commonly known as River House. They have been delivering that program for a number of years, and we were going to transition that program to the PSH Consortium, which is primarily made up of Sasha House and the YWCA and Sikokatoki Friendship Society. The problem has been facilities. The facilities that we intended to house the individuals in, unfortunately, every one of them has not come to fruition. In addition, COVID has created some problems in that we were shifting folks around to create additional capacity. And we have done that. We've done that to the tune of 35 beds by shifting different acuity or clients around to different facilities. And we originally were going to or the YWCA was going to purchase or look at purchasing the old Red Crow College and converting it to a men's 24-unit facility. And their board gave them the approval to do that, and that was in last October. And that fell through due to some planning and zoning issues. And then they shifted gears a bit, and then we're looking at potentially purchasing the days in using the federal government rapid housing initiative capital dollars, and unfortunately that has fell through. And then the third option was they were going to shift beds around within the YWCA building, but have been unable to do that because of the COVID issue and having to maintain social distancing, and they have been unable to convert rooms according to the original plan. And so until we get a facility, a larger facility, or a facility that we can move these folks to, it's not the necessarily the service provider that is the issue, it's the facility. It is not a great facility where those folks are at. It is a maximum 10-bed facility, which is not economies of scale. It makes it relatively expensive. But that is the bleeding of the neck issue in our community, is a lack of facilities for permanent supportive housing. Unfortunately, the 42-unit PSH facility, the funding that was announced 3 years ago, has not come to fruition. And even if that project gets a shovel in the ground tomorrow, it's still going to be at least a year until that facility is built. The plan or next step is again leveraging the new Social Service Integration Committee to help locate, or identify locations for such services, which, as you folks know, has been a challenge in our community. And so in the meantime, we have an option of, do we continue to house these folks where they're at in that facility? And if so, we need to fund them. Now, the good news is we have worked very hard behind the scenes. The original cost to deliver that program came in at $82,000 per client per year. And we have worked very hard, our team behind the scenes. We have been doing a lot of performance improvement, performance management, continuous improvement work with our service providers. And we've been able to bring that cost down from $82,000 to $59,000 per client per year. And our goal is to bring it down even more. Now, we've asked for a maximum of $447,000, but our hope is that we don't have to use that much.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do we have questions from the committee? Mr. Thompson, just when you're talking about the design and the planning stage, that the design, because you don't have a location, right? You don't have a site, so that makes it kind of difficult to design a place.
So are you talking about the new 42-unit facility?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. The province, now remember, the province, it's their project, it's their money, and they're leading that project.
Right.
They have purchased a lot in Lethbridge. They've owned it now, I believe, for coming close to a year. So they have developed a committee to create what's called the functional design of the building, which is occurring as we speak. Now, during that 3-year time period, of course, COVID has hit, and the cost of the facility has increased, by about $2.5 million, and it's because of two key reasons. One, lumber prices, which I'm sure everybody has heard. They have dramatically increased the price of the facility. Plus, in 2020, the province changed a lot of the building codes, which have increased the cost by a bit of money. So they are short roughly $2.5 million right now And we have a meeting set up with the province in the very near future, our director Mike Fox and myself, to learn more about the next steps and what the province is intending to do regarding that project.
But in the meantime, the request of 447 and 748, that money is just being reallocated. It's not a new ask, correct?
That's correct. Now, we are working again behind the scenes with all permanent supportive housing service providers to look at innovative ways on, how do we increase capacity as a whole? And so, we're constantly working at, not just relying on the 42 unit facility, but what other options do we have? What other buildings are there? What if, the different groups collaborated together to purchase a building, and really trying to think out of the box. Historically you would get the government that would buy a facility, or you would get a one nonprofit would try and buy a facility. And what I'm encouraging the folks to do is let's collaborate. What if 3 or 4 different service providers got together and looked at purchasing a building? What if we explore some type of a regional approach? With the different First Nation groups to look at potentially either building, buying, facilities. One of the issues is we have different acuity levels of clients or different levels of complexity. And, we want to have options where, if you're high acuity and you need to be stabilized, and you go into that, what we call a high acuity harm reduction facility, our goal is to move you towards recovery and then move you into the addiction continuum of care, into intox, detox, and treatment. Well, when you get out of treatment, we don't want you to put you back in that same facility. Of course, we want you to go into a recovery-based facility and then eventually into an abstinence-based, light, in-reach support, supportive housing facility. And we simply don't have those options right now. But as you folks know, we're working very hard to get those options up and running.
So this is until this funding goes until March of 2022 of next year. What happens then? I guess we revisit that.
Yeah, we revisit it. All of our funding, as you know, is annual. We hope to have some solutions. Quite frankly, we've had so many curveballs that I'm not going to try and predict what happens by the March 2022. But initially it looked we had a number of applications in our community for that rapid housing capital dollars. Now, even if they get those capital dollars, it still has to go through a zoning process, right? And we can never guarantee or predict that. That's why I'm excited. We're taking a little different approach with our social service integration committee to try and address some of those challenging issues about identifying locations for these facilities and doing it with the community and collaborating to do that. And if we can make some headway there, then it gives us the ability to be more proactive as we plan about, where we build them, where we could buy these, facilities. I got to tell you right now, the social service providers, they're gun shy about putting in zoning applications. It's kind of a catch-22 because there are a lot of buildings and facilities that are for sale or they could buy. And it's a 3-legged stool. First of all, you have to find the building and the location or the land if you're going to build new. Second, you got to find the capital dollars. But third, it has to be properly zoned. And so whether that's And we currently, there are no approved locations in Lethbridge that are zoned for permanent supportive housing. So what I'm saying is virtually everything has to go to an application. And so you've got service providers that are very hesitant to, to start going down that trail, not knowing where they're going to land. And then there's another piece in there is the programming dollars, right? If they're going to do that, they want to be assured that they're going to have consistent programming dollars. And I don't blame them. If I was a nonprofit or a private organization and I was going to buy land or build a building, I would want some assurance that there's going to be long-term programming dollars there. So it's a bit of a tricky situation to navigate, and COVID and zoning and a number of other issues have thrown us some curveballs. And yeah, this is not the perfect situation. I completely get it. But we are where we are.
Can I ask the new committee that you've alluded to, how is that progressing? Because it's so nice to see, getting some input from various sectors of the city.
Well, I'm glad you asked, because we held our first meeting last night.
Right.
And I'm happy to report we have a very diverse group. We have, you heard some of the folks at the mustard seed hearing that were very emotional. We have a very polarized community. But I got to tell you, most of those folks are on that committee. We've got a very diverse committee. And we held our first meeting last night, and it was, I would go beyond saying it was good. I would say it was a great meeting. We really laid some good groundwork. The committee is eager to go. They want action. They're ready to participate. The biggest thing that we heard last night is we don't want to do this again and put in all our time if the city's not going to follow through, and take action on this. But, as a city, we've got to be very careful that this is a community-driven process, and that we are the convener, the facilitator, but overall, great meeting. Our next meeting is scheduled 2 weeks from now, so we're moving fairly quickly.
I appreciate that, because I know there was a lot of passion at the public hearing, and a lot of people who said they wanted to be part of the solution. So hearing that they actually are showing up for the meeting, I think that's wonderful that our citizens are doing that. So thank you for that. Are there any other questions? I see none. Thank you for the report, Mr. Thompson. And I have a resolution from Councillor Higgin. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend the City Council to approve a maximum of $447,748 reaching home or outreach support services initiative homelessness funding for the Family Ties Association revised permanent supportive housing program from July 2021 to March 2022. Councillor Higgin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the presentation, Marty. I surely appreciate it. I thank you for looking into ways of saving funding, because I know this number of 447 was much higher prior to getting in and analyzing and doing some work, some groundwork, and finding out how we can reduce that. Because knowing that the cost sits between that 50 and 60 per year to support these individuals, this is now getting closer to what the national average is by that way, and to hear that you're actually looking at even better ways to come forward, that's very exciting news to hear. And I thank you and your team for all of the work that you've done there. So with that, again, this is just being recommended to council. It will be decided in council. So with that, I will call for the vote.
Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you again, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Fox. Moving on to 5.2. Robin Harper, General Manager, Recreation and Culture, 2021 Canada Day update. Mr. Harper.
Good afternoon, members of committee. This is just an update to the committee in regards to plans for 2021 Canada Day. with current restrictions, which is similar to last year, it's been very difficult to plan any type of, or almost impossible to plan any type of group activity to celebrate Canada Day. We've geared this year very similar to last year with a couple additions. Our goals for this year were to offer inclusive, accessible, and community-focused events, maximize some fun and community engagement while managing the risks, and abiding by public health guidelines, support and engage local organizations and businesses by including them in the activities whenever we can, and to provide efficient and effective services on behalf of the City of Lethbridge. We've taken a very cautious approach, but we've tried to be creative in regards to planning for some activities for Canada Day. At this time, with the current restrictions and no specific end to those in sight, again, we can't plan for a large event as we normally would. Some of the events that we are planning are similar to last year. Sidewalk Chalk Art Challenge, the Home Decorating Challenge, which we had photos of last year, Business Decorating Challenge, the Canada Day Activity Book, which was very popular last year, activity bags, virtual sketch classes, virtual craft classes, a virtual bingo, and guided virtual exploration activities via a smartphone application, which we're developing right now. The one big change that we are planning is what we call Arts in the Park Summer Series. Rather than have one large event and one large gathering, we're planning a series of events in various parks throughout the city. And we've tried to make sure that they're as restrictive proof as possible. We're providing accessible community-based activities, and it will be performances by local artists, etc., throughout various parks within the various areas of the city. So west, south, north. So they'll take place throughout the course of the summer. It's being organized by an external group to the city. We solicited some bids from local nonprofits to coordinate this series. We've been able to have New West Theatre coordinate and organize it. And planning is underway for those events. So that is one of the big changes that we are making this year. The other idea that we've recently come up with, and this is an effort to also celebrate the Indigenous heritage of our area. We are planning a 5-day series, if I can just find it here. At the Yates Memorial Theater, so it won't be in person, but it will be a project that is viewable through the front glass, coordinated with video over the radio. And what it will do is it will celebrate the Indigenous heritage and provide cultural awareness and respect to the Blackfoot Nation people and lands. It will be located in the upper mezzanine windows. Members of the public will be able to view this cultural exhibit during the hours of 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. from June 27th to July 1st. So there will be a different theme each one of those 5 days. The first 4 days leading up will be represent and honor the culture of each of the tribes in the area. The final day, which will be Canada Day, will be dedicated to the murdered and missing Indigenous women, girls, and Two-Spirited Peoples crisis. So we're excited about that and moving forward with that as an addition to be able to celebrate Canada Day. So as I said, it's just an update to the committee and to City Council of the plans for Canada Day for 2021.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Harper. I see total budget 89,600. That comes from, explain that, where that comes from?
We have an annual Canada Day budget of approximately $75,000. We've also just received word today that we received $15,000 in heritage grant funding for celebration of Canada Day as well.
That's great. Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Harper, for the update. Unfortunate, but I think understandable, considering where we're at and knowing that all these decisions need to be made months in advance. You can't wait till the day of to say whether it's on or off. So I appreciate the update.
Yeah.
Couple quick questions. The Arts in the Park series, love it. It's something our sister city, Saint Laurent, Quebec, does every summer. They rotate through every park in the community, and every weekend is a different type of event, whether it's a concert or a play performance, or even a big drawing event where everyone sets up their easels and paints or sketches or uses their own medium. And then they have an art auction, I believe, afterwards, or an art sale. So it's quite lovely. Is this something similar to that, where we're going to be trying to sort of activate all? We have such an amazing park system, and
yes,
activate them, get people out.
Yeah, Councillor Carlson, that is correct. We've had conversations, and part of the agreement with New West is that we hold at least one event in a park in the various areas of the city. So north, south, and west. That's at least one event. We're hoping for more events than that, but that all obviously is weather dependent and dependent on so many other factors. But that is the intent, is that we will have events throughout the city.
Excellent. Love it. And a lot of the things that were outlined in the report seem to me multi-day events, which is awesome. But on the actual Canada Day, are we planning any online? Because I know one of the joys of Canada Day is going to Galt Gardens, or going to Henderson, or back in the day, I think we had one behind the Lethbridge Lodge. We've held them in different performances in different venues. Is there anything being planned to sort of bring our community together on the day, where we can all sit down in front of our TV or iPad or what have you, and sort of come together as a community, even if it's for an hour, but showcase some of our local talent, showcase some of those folks? Is anything like that happening?
As of this moment, I don't believe there's anything specific that is geared for Canada Day specifically. There are a couple options in that list of activities that we could gear to that. I mean, the virtual walk activity could be geared toward Canada Day and get people out and celebrate on that specific day. We can definitely look at doing something specific for Canada Day to be able to do that. And like I said, definitely we'll look at that. But as of right now, the list is nothing specific on Canada Day itself. Other than the one viewing at the Yates Theatre through the upper glass mezzanine.
But I thought that was a 5-day, or is that?
It is a 5-day, and there'll be 4 days leading up, and then the final day will be on Canada Day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome to hear. And obviously, I don't want to micromanage or anything. It's just that if there is some way to bring us together as a community, sure, even if it's for half an hour, yep, I always look for those opportunities. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Councillor Higgin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Harper, for the presentation. So, we look at the Canada.
Blaine, we're kind of losing you.
Oh, am I there again?
A little better.
Can you hear me now?
There, that's perfect.
Okay, sorry. Okay, I was just wondering here. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Harper, and I'm just curious to know. So we have a grant that's or some money set aside for Canada Day celebrations each year. So I know we're going to use that same amount and more by the sounds of it, because we do have some other funds that have come in. Now, I go back to some of the different festivals that there's things that happen, and obviously the fireworks being a big one, right? But that obviously is bringing people together. So was that funding because I know fireworks is, I want to say $20,000-$30,000 or something, isn't it, for fireworks? So we're still using the same amount of money, but we're doing a little bit less, or just different? I just need a little explanation on that, if you could.
We're doing a lot of different things, Councillor Higgin, and in response to the fireworks statement as well. We did look at trying to have a fireworks display in a safe kind of format. We did have some meetings with some fireworks professionals, and it just was determined that we wouldn't be able to do it in a safe environment. So we did look at fireworks. It just didn't turn out the way we wanted to. But we are going to be using the entirety of the funding, like you stated. It will be a lot different use though, rather than normal.
Okay, so I look at something, and I really like what Councillor Carlson had mentioned about getting the community together for whatever that may be. I know we do have some things over a few days or whatever, so just something that, you know, it's Canada Day. That's you know, in light of everything that's happened over with COVID and stuff, we've always been told we're in this together. You know, we're trying to group together on as far as getting through this. Now, Canada Day being one of the most important day for as far as a holiday and of the year of getting together. I just wanted to make sure there was something there that the community could you know, do together. And I know that's hard to say do together when we're supposed to be apart, but hopefully things are a little better by then. But I understand that there's a lot of planning, I guess, correct? Getting up there, and that's why, even though we may be able to do it, you have to plan way in advance to be able to do it. So that's a struggle. Is that correct?
Under normal circumstances, when we have a large event gathering in Henderson Park, it is a lot of advanced planning and a lot of advanced commitment and down payments, et cetera, to secure that. So yeah, it does take a long time to plan these things. In these instances, in these COVID times, the way we've modified things, it still takes a lot of time to coordinate and order supplies that are required, et cetera. And it just seems to be different types of planning, but it still has to be done in advance. But we can definitely look at gearing something specifically to Canada Day, like you mentioned, to celebrate that day specifically as part of this.
Thank you.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, thank you, Mr. Harper. Just because we started discussing fireworks, forgive me if I go on a hard left turn here. Other communities in Canada and around the world have been exploring or actually implementing, they're called silent, but they're not silent, but they're quiet fireworks because of the impact on animals, children, folks with PTSD, etc. Has our committee, which I think is mostly made up of staff, but there's also a community committee, has our committee ever discussed those options?
Quiet fireworks? Is that specifically what you're asking about? I don't think we've actually, sorry.
I was just going to say they're called silent, but they're not. They're
silent?
Just a lot quieter.
I don't think we've specifically looked at something like that, Councillor Carlson. It's actually the first time I've ever heard of that, to be honest. So I mean, it's definitely something we can consider in the future, if and when we ever get back to kind of having a normal opportunity to celebrate Canada Day, and get thousands of people together and truly celebrate it the way we want to. We can definitely take a look at that if that is a growing trend, for sure.
Yeah, I'd appreciate just to explore it. I've seen several communities. I think it started in Europe, Italy. Silent. They're called silent, but
interesting.
No, that they're not. They've been around for a long, long time, but they're just sort of gaining popularity these days. So, if you get the opportunity to explore it, I'd love to hear what your discussions are.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Councillor Higgin, your hand is up. Is that from before, or do you have another question?
No further question. Sorry, forgot to take it down.
Okay. If there are no other questions, again, thank you for the presentation. I know the world is just one great big curveball that's been thrown to us here in Lethbridge, well, in the world, of course. And the fact that you've got something planned for Canada Day is great news. Not the best news, but that's what we've got. So I appreciate the presentation. And I have a resolution from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee received the 2021 Canada Day update as an attachment 1 for information. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Harper, for being here to walk us through it. If there's nothing further, I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. Anyone opposed? That carries. Thank you. All right, moving back to our agenda. And I'll find what my agenda says. It is 5.3. Once again, Martin Thompson, Manager of Community Social Development, about the Community Wellbeing and Safety Strategy Phase 2. Mr. Thompson.
Well, you guys should buy a lottery ticket, being able to get to see me twice in one day.
Yes, this is exciting. And your hair still looks great from the last meeting. Just so you know.
So we, as directed by City Council, we are establishing the CWSS task force, but also 2 ad hoc working groups: the Social Service Integration Working Group and the Clean and Safe Working Group. And as you know, from a previous update, our priority was to get the Social Service Integration Committee up and running ASAP. And so we put most of our effort into that one.
Mr. Chair, sorry, Marty. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. Mr. Chair, may I just interject? My agenda has nothing attached to this. It was supposed to be a submission. I have no submission. Am I going off an old agenda?
I don't have one. Mr. Fox?
Yeah, through the chair, because the community safety or well-being and safety strategy is moving forward so fast, we were asked to give verbal updates at both this committee and the safety the SPC. That is what we're doing. We're just trying to keep council up to date at both committees as we move forward to make sure that you're as up to date as possible as we move forward. So they are verbal just for the next couple months, and then we'll be having formal submissions once the task force is up and running.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Higgin?
And yeah, a question I'd have just following up on that. Thank you, Councillor Carlson. I was noticing the same thing. Will we be getting the update here as far as the paperwork after, I guess, if you will, the attachments later, so that we know what we've discussed here in this meeting, what I guess exactly what Mr. Thompson is speaking to?
If that is your wish, yeah, we can definitely get together a format. If you'd prefer, instead of doing a verbal update at these committees, we could also provide a written one and provide it to Craig, and he could give it on his weekly updates too, if that would be a better way of doing it. It was just during the discussion with council about the CWSS and how we were moving forward. It was asked that we update the committee at every meeting, and at that time Rob Marashiro also asked it to be brought to this one as well, because we were just going to be taking it to the other SPC. So we could do it either way. We're just trying to find the best way that council wants to be updated on how we're moving forward, because it was such a decisive issue in the community for this.
No, and I do totally appreciate. I think it's important to come to each of these. I'm actually quite happy with it. I was just wondering if we have something to follow along with, and what we've discussed today, we'd be able to see it. I would definitely not want just a written update, because I do appreciate this. This is what the community likes to see. They like to see the updates. It shows that movement is happening. We're getting to it. We're doing our work. So I do appreciate that. So I guess just maybe a combination if possible, but I don't know if that would take too much of your time, but that would be great just for explanation purposes.
Okay, for future meetings, maybe we will look at trying to have some speaking points. It's just we have to have it into the committee agenda about 2 weeks before, and in that 2 weeks, things change quite a bit. So me and Marty will get together and brainstorm on how we can get them to you the best.
Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I completely support Councillor Higgin there. The challenge we'd have right now is if I was a citizen who wanted to follow along with this, I'd open up our agenda and tomorrow or the day after, I'd click on it and like, where is the attachment? And then I'd phone my counselor and say, I want that attachment. And so even if it is just a brief 5-point written so that something can be attached. It does say a submission, which is traditionally a written document rather than a presentation. So it'll just be helpful if we have something in there, even as a placeholder. So thank you. Sure.
And through the chair, it is in my past practice, I would have said verbal update beside it. But we'll get something together, even if it's points that we're going to talk to.
Thank you. And maybe further to that, Mr. Thompson, there is a committee, the CWS committee, correct?
Sorry, so we've got, I'm not sure, could you maybe rephrase that question? I'm not sure what you're asking, sir.
There's a community committee that is overseeing a lot of this work, correct? Is there not a working group or a committee, whatever you want to call it?
Right. So we've got the task of creating the CWSS task force, which would be developing that governance model committee structure in terms of reference. Now, as per the resolution, we're going to leverage the current CWSS advisory committee to help us do that work. Okay.
And I guess my question was really that perhaps we could have these we have under section 6 committee updates.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And so I'm just wondering if we add the CWSS advisory committee to our regular committee updates under section 6, that may be more helpful than a submission or a written or verbal, if it's just always in there. Just a thought that we could add that to our ongoing list of committees. So thank you.
Yeah, that would seem much more appropriate. I would agree.
Councillor Higgin.
Thank you. Sorry, that's just to keep continuing on this, but we know that council has heard loud and clear that it's the community. This is the community that's going to be doing this. This is the CWSS's community. These task forces are going to be community driven, but we have administration bringing it forward. Now, I know that they are there to kind of convene and to put everything together. And so I know myself personally, and I don't know if I want to speak for others, would like to hear this group actually speak to us moreover than, and I get what you're doing is, and I'm not saying that what we hear from yourself, Marty, or from your team is by any means, I don't want to hear it, because that's true. But coming from that task force, to me, is extremely important. But my understanding is that you've just got up and going with the task force. And so that will be something in the future. Am I correct to hear that they will be presenting? Is that right?
Yes. So once we get up and going, what our intent is to identify chairs or co-chairs for each committee and have them present, and to truly make it a community-driven process. Right now, of course, we're playing that backbone role of logistically getting them going, getting their feet under them. But our goal, and we do have professional facilitators hired to help us do that. But eventually, of course, getting the committee to the point where they have co-chairs and they're truly doing the work on their own, with the city simply providing that administrative support. And that would segue beautifully into having those chairs or co-chairs present directly to you.
Absolutely. That's perfect. That's great. Because again, we're just kind of in its infancy, so I understand where this is going. So thank you very much. And sorry, Mr. Chair, for taking up so much time. I appreciate it.
It's all right. Mr. Thompson, do you want to continue with anything else you wanted to say?
So yes, I think I gave a fairly fulsome update on the Social Service Integration Committee. The other committee, the Clean and Safe Committee, we've got a commitment of committee members, again, a very diverse group of committee members. And we are just in the final stages of creating a draft tour, terms of reference, that we will, and again, we're in the process of getting the logistics, dates, and a bit of a work plan to hold that first meeting, which we anticipate will be, in the fairly near future. And then for the CWSS task force, we're trying to prioritize our work a bit. And so that has kind of been the third priority. We wanted, again, to get those two ad hoc immediate committees up and running right away. And we are in the stages, again, of developing the logistics to get that first meeting with the task force done. Getting, a facilitator to help that group do that work in creating that draft governance model committee structure. So we've come a long way, in my opinion, in a very short few weeks. And by the next SPC meeting, we should have quite a bit of more hard information to provide to you, rather than just logistics and planning stuff that we're working on right now.
Thank you very much for that. The Clean and Safe Committee, is that an offshoot of what had already been in place? Are you going to revamping it? Is that?
So again, we had what was called the Downtown Clean and Safe strategy, right? But again, very much administratively driven by the city. Some great work done, and great work to build off of. But, as directed by council, we want to make this a truly community-driven process where we give the community the opportunity to not only identify their concerns, but identify actions and solutions as a community, right? Instead of the city simply coming up with ideas to address it. Let's bring the community together. Let's bring the people together who have been directly impacted by these issues and come up with solutions. And the actions or that they identify may or may not involve the city administration. It may be things that they can do on their own that don't require dollars or approval from the city. It could be a number of actions that the community can do on their own. So I love the process that it's community driven, and there may be actions that they come back with where they do have an ask of city council, and that's okay, right? That's what we bring that forth through the proper channels.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Thompson? Yeah, I think I like the way this is heading. I look forward to updated reports once this gets off and running. So good work on that. I have a resolution from Councillor Higgin. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee receive its information, the verbal update regarding community well-being and safety strategy, CWSS. Councillor Higgin.
Again, thank you for the presentation. Appreciate the update. And yes, keep bringing all the information as much as forward as possible, because I know that's what the community is looking for. So thanks. With that, I will call for the vote.
Anyone opposed? There are none. That is passed. I don't believe we have any other committee updates from 6.1 to 6.7. So we will move on to confidential items 7.1. And I will, I've got a resolution from Councillor Carlson. Be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee direct that the closed meeting discussion report and attachments with respect to fee-for-service and lease negotiations remain confidential pursuant to Section 25, harmful to economic and other interests of a public body, the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. And further be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee forward this item to the closed meeting of City Council held June 1st, 2021. And further be it resolved that the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council pursue the recommendations made in the closed meeting. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll call for the vote.
Question's been called. Anyone opposed? That passes. Finally, we have one last. Yes.
Sorry, just to. I should have done this earlier during the committee reports when you were talking about it. Do we actively reach out to those committees in advance of these meetings to say the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee is meeting in a week? Do you have any updates? I was hoping that putting those as placeholders, we'd see at least the minutes of those meetings from those committees that do report, or any updates. So I'm wondering if we actually actively reach out to them.
Mr. Sarsfield.
So in response to your question, yes, we do, because most of our the clerk staff is involved with most of those committees in some way. So although those committees may meet, they may not have any recommendations to pass on. What we have asked them to do at the very least is provide an update on just what their actions have been for the past year, just so that you know. So yes, they know when the committee meetings are, standing policy committee meetings are, and you'll see something from all of them at some point.
Excellent, thank you. And just further, if they do meet, even if they don't have anything to report, if we could maybe make an effort to attach their minutes, just so that we're aware of any work there that our subcommittees are doing. Thank you.
So we would not be prepared to attach the minutes at this point, because that would mean a lot of files. We have looked at doing that. If there is, we do post most of them on our website, so that's where they are, if you so wish. If there's something specific you're looking for, we can do that, but it would mean that these files would be incredibly large.
My mailbox is already full, so no. Thank you.
All right.
Possibly sorry, Mr. Chair, possibly just a link to where they are online. Maybe that might be fine too, without actually attaching them. Is that something that's possible, or is that still a little cumbersome, David?
No, we can do that. Thanks for the suggestion.
Okay, thank you.
All right, that brings us to this final thing. Be it resolved, this is from Councillor Higgin, I think. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn the regular meeting of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee until Thursday, June 17th, 2021. Councillor Higgin.
Well, it's kind of want to hang around here a little bit longer. So,
all right, we'll see you then.
Call for the vote, Mr. Chair.
All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all the information. Thank you all, and see ya next time.
Go build a snowman.
That's right. Carry on.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.